Gentlemen, thank you for being with us this evening. We're going to update you on the very violent event that occurred earlier today. At about 3:30 this morning at 704 Wombat Way, about 2/10 of a mile from where the event occurred, there was a knock at the front door. When the homeowner's dog started barking and he went to the front door, no one was there. We believe this is related. About 20 minutes later, we received a frantic 911 call that there was a armed burglar who had just kicked the front door of a home open and was in the house with a gun in each hand. Deputies immediately ran to the area, and upon our arrival, we determined that there were a total of 5 hostages in the house. There was Ben Vargo, his live-in girlfriend, Lucienne Diaz, their daughter, who is 7 years of age. There was also Lucienne's sister, Corinne Diaz, and her son, Jaden Bivens, who is 7 years of age. So imagine this. An armed man kicks the front door open after firing 3 shots into the family car in the front yard. They see this man, and the 2 women and the 2 children run for the master bathroom to hide in there. The suspect, Stephen Andrew Bradley, who is 34, all of a sudden starts screaming at them, "Where's the box? Where's the box?" And as a result, he wants to know where the black box is. And they go, "What black box?" "The box that's controlling my mind." Over and over, that's what he said. He points the gun at Ben, who is the adult male, as he searches frantically throughout the entire house for the box. At this point in time, after not finding the box anyplace else in the house, he wants to go into the master bedroom. So he takes Ben at gunpoint into the master bedroom, and he opens the door. When he opens the door, there are the 2 ladies with the 2 7-year-olds in the bathtub with the curtain pulled closed. He opens the curtain and discovers the children there, the 2 women in the bathroom, but no black box. He immediately leaves. When he leaves, he goes back in the living room and he starts having a conversation about, "You're part of the problem. You are part of the problem. I want to know where the black box is. I know you're involved." And Ben's going, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." At that time, he says, "I also want the Puerto Rican girl. I want the Puerto Rican girl with the glasses." And he's going, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." At this time, deputies are arriving. As deputies are arriving, we see the front door open, and we see this person frantically walking back and forth across the front entrance holding a gun. The deputies start negotiating and trying to talk to him. At that time, the 2 women and the children have now climbed out of the bathroom window and are running around the back of the house and are met by deputies who are securing the back side of the residence. While that's happening, they tell him, "Ben's in the house. The man's got guns. He's wanting a black box, but there's still my husband, her common-law husband, in the house." Deputies are trying to talk to this person who's exceptionally irrational. He paces back and forth. We get glimpses of him as he passes by the doorway. The deputies are still trying to talk to him. During this period of time, Ben tells us he's reloading his gun. And he passes back in front of the doorway, and the deputy asks him, "Is that a gun you're holding?" He said, "Well, of course it's a gun." The deputies, the sergeant and the lieutenant said, "Look, we've got a hostage in here. The guy's irrational. We think we can lay down some suppressive fire and get the hostage out." So the next time he showed himself, the suspect, in front of the door, the deputies began firing at him. And as they fired, they pushed into the house, and he started to run toward the master bedroom. They grabbed the hostage to safety and pulled him out. The suspect then slammed the door as they continued to shoot at the suspect, who was heavily armed. Once they got the victim out, our hostage out of the house, they held the perimeter and waited for SWAT. Our SWAT team came, and part of the SWAT team is a marshal service. We were then able to push back in with robots since everyone was out of harm's way, and as a result of that, found the victim deceased on the bedroom floor. At this point in the investigation, the evidence tends to show that the suspect probably died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, until the crime scene investigation is finished, and we're not finished there, and the medical examiner does his investigation, will not absolutely say that. So at this time, it's unknown whether he died from our shot or died from shooting himself, even though the initial information, the initial evidence we've seen tends to lead us to believe that he shot himself. Here's what we know about him. We know that when he went in, he was wearing a backpack. He was carrying a Taurus .45 caliber in one hand, and he was carrying a .44 Magnum tracker that the suspect's mother called a bear gun. He had recently come from Oregon, and they had a large gun to defend themselves from bears. Apparently they lived in a rather wooded area. In addition to that, he had another .45 caliber in his backpack. So he burst into that house, 2 guns in hand, a flashlight, a gun in his backpack, and approximately 200 rounds of ammunition. He was ready to do whatever he needed to do to find that box that was controlling his mind. We found out that apparently our suspect, Stephen Andrew Bradley, just moved to the area last July. He moved from the state of Oregon. After moving into the Poinciana area, apparently he went back to visit some brothers or family members in the Washington state area. They were exceptionally concerned. He was paranoid. He heard voices. They apparently took him for some kind of evaluation. However, he was released from the hospital there. He eventually came back to live with his mother, which was next door to our victim's house. When he lived there, we can't find where we've ever been dispatched to a call for service at the house. By his mother's statements, he's never been treated for mental illness in the state of Florida. But she noticed beginning last October that he was having these episodes. However, he didn't receive help. The first time law enforcement came in contact with him was when he was standing in the house with hostages, rambling incoherently and putting people at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, law enforcement officers every day and deputies last night risked their life. They stood in the gap between good and evil. They saved this man. They pushed in and ran directly toward a man armed with 3 handguns in an effort to rescue a hostage in a very, very volatile situation. As a result, the only person that's deceased is the suspect, and the early indications is he died from his own hand. With that, any questions?
We started off with the apparently home down the road. Is that accurate? Or another road?
There, 0.2 of a mile away, 20 minutes earlier, somebody was knocking at the front door.
And no one
Those folks have apparently a couple of very large, imposing dogs that came to the door and started barking. By the time the homeowner woke up and got to the front door, there was no one there at all.
Do you think this man intended to do what he did there a couple
He had ramblings and notes that we recovered, and some of them mention that road. There's no indication from the homeowners at this point that they knew him. But he was talking about the black box and mind control. He was talking about the neighbor girl using a voodoo doll on him. He said that Ben, the victim next door that he took hostage, had been using radionics on him. And he also wrote in one of his ramblings, "I reject all clones and energy fully." We put that information in on Wombat Court because he does have a reference in some of the ramblings about Wombat Court. However, he was never seen there, but it was the right time frame before he apparently shot 3 rounds through the family car and burst into his neighbor's house with a gun in each hand. He was very dangerous. He was very dangerous. And we're very fortunate that there are not 2 7-year-old children, 2 adult ladies, and certainly our male victim deceased, as well as our deputies who ran directly into a very, very irrational person armed with guns in order to rescue a hostage last night.
The note that you found, was there a list of addresses? Any specific addresses on that?
There were several notes that we found that apparently had been constructed over a period of time, and there was the address next door. There was another address listed as 616. However, we can't find a 616 on that street, so we don't know what that might have been about.
So he was legally permitted to own these weapons?
He was legally permitted to own the weapons as far as we know at this point in the investigation. We don't see where he's got criminal history. We don't see where he has been prohibited because of mental health. We never had a call for service there, and apparently whenever he was in Washington State, they saw him probably on what we have considered a Baker Act here and then released him. We will give you all more information. We probably won't call a formal meeting unless you all want that, but that will occur after the medical examiner does his initial investigation tomorrow. Like we said, at this point in time, it appears to us, rationally it appears to us based on evidence at the scene, that he more than likely shot himself. However, we're giving ourselves some room to finish our crime scene investigation and have our medical examination in the morning before we say for sure. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.